So you're considering making an investment in your business, hiring an agency, hiring a member of staff, maybe investing into a big project, and you're not sure if you should do it or not. Am I going to get a return? Is it worth the money? Am I brave enough to make this decision in the first place? And what else is at stake? The bigger your business gets, the more important it becomes to good at making these big decisions. And so today I'm going to talk you through a hypothetical example of a very large investment that you might make into your business and how you should think about it. In case you don't know me, my name is Olly Richards. I'm the founder of StoryLearning.com. It's a multi-million-dollar online education business. I'm also a mentor and advisor to other online education entrepreneurs. Now, there are three main questions that I ask whenever I am considering hiring somebody or bringing someone on to do a big project in my business. And they concern three areas, right? So they are financial, opportunity cost, and competency. Now, what happens a lot of the time is that people just focus on the financial stuff. Like they hear a big number and they immediately get scared if it's big, or else excited maybe if it's a small number. But they judge everything based on the economics of it. Now, obviously, the economics have to work, but there are other things at stake, and these two things are a big deal. And so we're going to run through these and see how they might play out in a decision-making process. So let's imagine a hypothetical situation where you in your online education business are thinking about hiring an agency to come in and set up some email automation for you. That's a pretty common scenario, actually. A lot of creative types in particular never really get to grips with the email marketing. And then one day they realize, damn, email is where everyone's making their money. I should be doing it too, but I'm not very good with email and it's also manual help. And then they discover email automation and some helpful agency comes along. Maybe it's a DM on Twitter or someone reaching out on LinkedIn, or just some guy you meet down the pub and they say, hey, I will implement email automation inside your business. So we send out emails automatically, we send out campaigns, we warm people up, and then we make sales on autopilot all while you sleep. Doesn't that sound great? And we'll do all of this for the princely sum of $30,000. Now, if you were going to implement email marketing inside a business that currently doesn't have email, it's a big job. It's not an unreasonable amount of money. It kind of stacks up on the face of it. And so you talk to them and say, well, what do we hope to achieve? And they say, well, our goal would be that we would get you to $10,000 a month in automated evergreen email sales. And let's just say, for the sake of keeping this simple, that currently you do $3K a month. So your business currently makes $3K a month on average of just random people buying stuff from your website. And they say, we will get it up to 10,000. And so on the face of it, it looks great, right? That's an extra 7,000 a month. That's only going to take 4 and a bit months to pay back the return. And then I'll get to keep the stuff forever. It looks kind of good, right? But then you just catch yourself and you think, hang on a minute. Am I really about to spend $30,000? What if it doesn't work? And you can get trapped in this kind of decision paralysis where the most common response then is just procrastination. You say, oh, maybe not now, maybe like next month or next year or whatever. So how should you think through this proposal? So the kind of base question is, well, what's the likely ROI? And you can think through that. And as we saw back here, we thought, well, if this works, then our sales will jump from 3K a month to 10K a month. That's an extra 7,000 a month. So in 4 and a bit months, we get a return on our investment, right? That's the kind of basic ROI. But it depends on so many things, doesn't it? Are these guys any good? Is it actually going to work? What about force majeure or whatever it may be? So this question doesn't actually get you very far, or it only answers a part of the question. Okay. First of all, we would look at the best and worst case scenario. And this is very common in all different types of financial management. You don't know what the actual result's going to be, but you can predict best case and worst case. So let's have a look at that. So the best case scenario is that these guys do their work and they get you up to 10K a month, or even more, right? And then everybody's happy. And then the worst case would be, well, they completely fall flat. Nothing that they do works, and it's a complete waste of time and money. And so at the end of it, you're still at 3K a month. You spent 30K and you just flushed 30K down the toilet. Now, I think we could probably assume that that's kind of unlikely if you do just basic due diligence on the people. But we don't know if it's realistic to get to 10K a month. After all, we haven't done this before. We're not quite sure. And so we might say, well, look, the average case here, the thing that we could do a kind of sensible, prudent planning around would be 6K a month. Best case and worst case, well, what would be the implications of each scenario? Well, let's have a look. So 4 months to ROI, if they achieve this. Now, if we achieve the average case here of 6K a month, we've now gained 3K a month of monthly revenue, which means we've got 10 months ROI. And if they completely fall flat, achieve nothing, then the whole thing is just a write-off. And so we could look at this and say, well, these are the ranges of scenarios from best to worst. The worst case is pretty unlikely because nothing, for this to be true, nothing they do would have to work. And I think we can agree that's probably quite unlikely. And so this seems reasonable. And so in a realistic worst case scenario, we think here that we would spend this money, we would make our money back in 10 months, but then we've got these automations here that can then run forever. So you've got a 10-month return window, and then you get to, the ROI is kind of infinite after that. So many people would look at that and say, well, that still stacks up. And there's always the chance that we get this result. So this is the kind of range of likely outcomes. So we've looked at the best and worst case. We've looked at the implications of each scenario. We've looked at the likelihood of each one happening. We've got to a place where we think we could have a kind of reasonable assessment of what might happen in this project. But there are some more questions to really get to the bottom of this. First of all, this is a really important concept for any big changes you're about to make, reversibility. Let's say it doesn't work. Let's say that they fall flat on their face, they add no value to the business. It's not necessarily the case there that all you've lost is the 30K. They may have also screwed with the mechanics of your business and your email, and you might have to spend time undoing the colossal mess that they've made. So how easy is it to reverse? Now, an email marketing project, there are certain safeguards you can put in place so you can make sure that you don't touch the original emails, you make duplicates. So if the duplicates don't work, you can just kind of switch it back and it's not too difficult. So something like that is probably reversible. If you were talking about bringing on, say, a bunch of team members, then that is not easily reversible because then you've got redundancy costs and you've got time and all kinds of things that you have to put up with. Some things are easily reversible, some are not, but you've got to ask the question, how reversible is it? And now we get into the interesting area of opportunity cost, right? So let's say that you've been thinking about this email marketing thing for a long time, right? You've known for years you really should get to grips with email, and you know that you're not very good with email, so you just keep kicking the can down the road and you just don't deal with it. But you've got to the point where it's one of the major things inside your business that you could do that would really move things forward. When we look at the different financial scenarios, this is only part of the picture because, all right, yes, this average scenario, we might get an ROI in 10 months. And yes, the worst case scenario is like we just lose all the money. But there's actually more to this worst case scenario, which is, hey, if you don't do it, if you don't do the project at all, are you still going to be here in a year's time or in 2 years' time, in 3 years' time, and the business not having moved forward? There are lots of cases where you can try a big project hoping it might work. It doesn't work. It's all a waste of money. But you've learned something important and can move the business on in other directions, confident that that thing was not the right direction. And this is the idea of, you call it what you want. It's momentum, it's speed to learning, it's opportunity cost or whatever it may be. But the relevant question here is, what do we gain by completion of this project, irrespective of whether it works or not? Okay, so to bring it back to the email marketing thing, let's say that you have a hypothesis that email marketing is the one thing that you need to do that will move your business forward. And let's say you do this project with this agency and it doesn't work. Well, guess what? Yes, you spent all the money, but you've also learned that email marketing doesn't work for your business, which then frees you up mentally to go on to the next thing. And that is a huge deal when you look at the lifespan of a business overall. Okay. Now, the last question is one of my favorites, and this was a question that I got asked by a friend and mentor of mine, Phil. And it was when I was facing a tricky decision. Should I do this or should I do that? And he listened to me very carefully. He said, Ollie, I've got the sense that we're standing at the roulette table placing everything on red. Where if this thing works, great. But if it doesn't work, you're out of business. Ollie, why are we standing at this roulette table? And I realized that I kind of got tunnel vision with this decision. I'd got what's known as the tyranny of awe. The tyranny of awe, as in OR. Should we do this? Should we do this, option A, or should we do option B? Well, often there is an option C that you're just not considering for whatever reason. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're considering a project and you need it to work in order for your business to survive or to be successful, many, many, many things are contingent on this thing working. that is often not a good situation to be in because it places too much pressure on the outcome of this project, and there may be other options that you're not considering either. So if you're standing at the roulette table placing everything on red or on black, because that's the two choices, right? That's a big, bright red flag for you to think, am I looking at the complete picture here? By the way, if you enjoy this kind of stuff, you might like a case study that I've written. It's 118 pages. It's called Anatomy of a $10 Million Online Education Business. It explains how one of my businesses runs from top to bottom, from email marketing, which is obviously the topic of this, through to team, lifestyle, sales, all these kind of things. It's completely free. You can download it by going to ollyrichards.co. And please enjoy. Many people like this case study a lot. So you've decided to go ahead. You think on balance, when comparing the financial outcomes and the opportunity cost and the value to the business, etc., that you want to move forward with this investment. Great. The next thing you're likely to worry about is, well, are these the right people? Because everything can stack up in my mind, but are you the right person to help me with this business? Here are the things that I think through in that scenario. What needs to be true for the person I'm about to hire to be the right person for it to make for it to be a good decision? Well, let's say that I wanted them to build out my email marketing for me. What are some of the things that might need to be true about them? Well, they would have to be obviously excellent writers. So I might look at the emails I've received, and if they're full of spelling mistakes or whatever, that is probably a warning sign. I would want them to have a deep understanding of email. That must be true. So I would go and look for examples of the emails they've sent me, work that they've done for other clients. It would also have to be true that they've worked with someone in my niche, in my space, so I know that they understand my specific business and they're not just doing a kind of spray and pray strategy of some kind, thinking that one particular thing will work across all industries, because it never does, right? So what needs to be true in order for these people to be the right people to hire? Next, the rule of three. If you've been DM'd, if the person you're talking to has kind of DM'd you on Twitter, or it's cold outreach of some kind, and you find yourself considering this big decision on the back of someone who has reached out to you, prospected you cold, stop and ask yourself, who else can I talk to? Go and talk to 3 different people. Never make a big investment without talking to 3 different people, having proper conversations with them. And you say, look, just so you know, I'm talking to different people here. I'm considering my options. I just want to understand how you can help me. Get the full proposal from 3 people, and then step back in a calm way, look through and ask yourself, now who is the right person to speak to? Ask for recommendations and referrals for people. If you don't have people to ask, go and ask friends or colleagues for referrals. Email me and ask me for a referral for somebody. But make sure you're speaking to at least 3 people. Never make a decision if you're just speaking to one person alone. And lastly, before you hire anybody, whether it's an agency or an employee or whatever, check references. Ask them for examples of people that they've worked with in the past, and then get on the phone with those people. DM them on Instagram, hit them up on LinkedIn, whatever it may be. Ask them, hey, I'm considering hiring this person or this agency. What was your experience? Can you show me some of the results of what they've done? If they had a good experience, they're going to help you. They're going to engage with you on this. And guess what? If they've had a bad experience, they're going to tell you as well. But this is one of the things that people never do. And this is especially true in hiring, right? Where people, they ask for references and they don't actually follow up. Follow up on your references. Make sure you've got comparable projects in a similar space to you that you can use as some good proof that they are likely to be able to follow through on their promises. But if the question is email marketing, then the answer is this video right over here, where I walk you through over 10 years of hard-won email marketing experience in my own online education business. Go and check it out right now. Let me know what you think.